This is the Dallas Morning News.
Hi, and welcome to a new episode of SportsDay Rangers podcast. I'm Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News, and you guys just get me this week. Well, at least for the first segment. John is doing something he hasn't done in 40 years or so, maybe longer than that. I have no idea what like a young, unfettered career John Blake was like. But what we do know is he's on vacation, and as of course he does, even when he's vacationing, I'm sure he's going to be looking at some historical artifacts. It's just not baseball artifacts. But we will hear from him later in this week's episode. We did do an interview. I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that SportsDay Rangers is our weekly spinoff of the Dallas Morning News SportsDay Insider podcast. We keep you up to date with the latest on this year's club while leaning on John and my years of experience around the team to tell some old stories and have a little bit of fun. This week, our guest is going to be 20-year Major League veteran Darren Oliver, who played a key role in the Rangers' first division championship and was a key member of the bullpen in the Rangers' first two World Series appearances and is now a special assistant in the front office. We'll also look back at the first ever interleague game in the archives in Arlington, to which Darren Oliver also has something of a connection. We've had great conversations with former Rangers over the first month of the show, including last week's guest, Rusty Greer. If you want to interact with the show, you can find both John and me on X. I'm at Evan_P_Grant, or reach out to me via email at egrant@dallasnews.com or any of the Morning News' social media channels. You can find the SportsDay Insider podcast, which also will include the feed to the SportsDay Rangers podcast, wherever you like to consume your podcast. It sounds to me like we're eating podcasts, but we're just using podcasts. I'm still getting used to the podcast world.
Bottom of the ninth, bases loaded. Here comes Jimmy Dale from Baker Brothers Plumbing, AC, and Electrical.
Thanks, Chuck. When your home pitches curveballs, Baker Brothers knocks it out of the park.
Home run, Baker Brothers. Incredible.
As the official home service partner of your Texas Rangers, we're offering $300 off a tank or tankless water heater.
Another winning call. Visit callbakernow.com or dial 214-342-1171 today.
Baker Brothers.
Great service.
But I am used to talking to myself from This Week in Rangers Baseball, y'all, what I've done several years here on video, me talking to myself about this club. And so let's get into a couple of things from the last week and where this club is as they are getting closer and closer to the halfway statistical mark of the season. I think there were a couple of big moments in the last week on this 9-game road trip that had the Rangers at Tampa Bay and at Washington. And as they begin this week, they will play 3 games in Minneapolis, where they haven't done very well for the last couple of years before coming home. They've had until this point of the season, they had a very heavy home split and hadn't played as many games on the road. So this stretch of the schedule leading up to the All-Star break is very road heavy, which is going to be a test for this team. It hasn't played very well on the road to this point. On Sunday, when the Rangers won a bullpen game over Washington 4-2, started by Jacob Latz, it marked a couple of firsts. It was the first road series win for the Rangers in more than a month. They had lost, I think, 4 consecutive road series. And it was the first time they'd won consecutive games on the road in a little bit longer than that. So that was a big change for the club. How we got here this week involved a little bit of a struggle for Kumar Rocker in Tampa Bay, and I think that was the big story of the series in Tampa Bay. Rocker just really had a hard time getting through the Tampa Bay lineup, made a couple of mistakes in fielding his position, one in getting to first base slowly that allowed a run to score, and then another, in continuing in that play, He overran the bag, took a couple strides further into right field or towards right field, and didn't really realize he had another runner on base until it was too late. And by the time that all took place, run had scored. And it was a bad look for him and for the Rangers because, again, some of these fundamental things that we're talking about, like covering first and how to react when you've got the ball in your hands with a play and or a runner on the field, as well as holding runners and the running game, things like that. These have been an issue for Kumar. I don't think it's anything that's not fixable, but I certainly think it does illustrate that he needs more time in the minor leagues. When you go back and you look at the amount of time that Kumar Rocker spent in the minor leagues, all total to this point, it's, I think, 71 innings. And this is a guy who was drafted originally in 2021, the same point in time that Jack Leiter was drafted. Didn't pitch in 21, was drafted in 22, didn't pitch in 22, started the year in 23, 4 or 5 starts in with at the high A club. He tears the elbow ligament and misses most of the next 2 seasons. So Kumar's really had no opportunity to do the refinement that is necessary of moving into professional baseball and finishing off as a major league pitcher. And I think the Rangers finally decided, okay, we've given this enough of a look to see if we could force this to happen just on talent alone, and it's not. And so I think this is a longer term deal for Kumar on the pitching side. I think the Rangers really want him to develop a third pitch, something that kind of moves downward in the zone. Most of his pitches seem to go side to side, and it doesn't change batters' eye level. And because of that, I think batters are better able to stay on the pitches. So I think they're going to work significantly on trying to get something that goes down towards the bottom of the zone and below. And I think also, as we mentioned, the fundamentals are an issue. Rocker's struggles, combined with the ongoing recovery of Nathan Eovaldi, led to the Rangers on Sunday in Washington going to a bullpen game, which was started by Latz. And the Rangers won that game 4-2 to win that series in Washington. As I mentioned, the reason that they went to the bullpen game is because they needed a starter for the first time really this year. They had started only 6 pitchers all year. First time they needed to dip somewhere to get a starter that wasn't really in their plans. They went to Jacob Latz. And it was a well-pitched game by the Rangers bullpen. I can't remember a whole lot of opportunities over the last few years that the Rangers have pitched and won bullpen games. But I also think as Bruce Bochy mentioned after the game, it was important to note that was set up. The ability to use his full bullpen the way he wanted to was set up by the fact that Patrick Corbin pitched 8 really strong innings on Friday night in Washington, followed by 7 shutout innings from Jacob deGrom on Saturday. And so you saw the effect of when the Rangers get a modicum of offense, how this rotation's performance can impact the club, even on days when it doesn't have a starter. It allowed the bullpen to be at its full strength and for Bochy to deploy his pitchers as he wanted to. And I think that played a big role in the 4-2 win over Washington. I do want to mention that, the Rangers scored 4 runs on Sunday. They had scored 5 runs on Saturday. Again, something they haven't done very often this year. I think it's the 6th occasion on which they've scored at least 4 runs in consecutive games. What's notable about that is this team's basically automatic when it gets to 4 runs. They are 23-4 now, or at least going into the week. It's the second best winning percentage in Major League Baseball when scoring at least 4 runs. The only club that's better is Detroit, which has the best overall record in baseball. And so if the Rangers can get average offense, they are a very good team. They just haven't gotten average offense for much of the season. Which brings us into my other topic that I wanted to mention today, and that is Marcus Semien, who has had a lot of heat on him this year for a slow start, coming off of a poor year last year, and I think it had gotten to the point where the Rangers had dropped him as far as they could in the batting order to where he was hitting ninth. But what we've seen from Marcus, I think after 3 weeks of working with Brett Boone and with Justin Veely on kind of I don't even want to say a new approach, but I think it's more of a head clearing approach. It's more like, hey, let's focus on what you have done well all your life. Let's not try and introduce new things. You are a pull hitter. You have pulled the ball in the air. Let's do everything we can to make sure that you're in position to do that. And so whether Marcus has adjusted his hands a little bit, or whether he has lowered the leg kick that he has, or whether he has moved up on the plate an inch or two, nobody's really giving details on that. But what we are seeing is real results. He's hitting the ball with authority, and since the start of June, was slashing .435, .519, 826 slugging percentage, and a 1345 OPS going into that series in Minneapolis. Was a strong candidate for the American League Player of the Week this past week. And for me, what's been notable is when he's gotten pitches inside on the inner half of the plate, particularly fastball, he is able to drop the bat there and hit it with authority in the air. There's no more lazy pop-ups. There's not been a ton of rolled over ground balls. And I think you've also seen Marcus get more aggressive on the bases in terms of running, and how he has, whether it's stealing a base here or there or trying to make things happen. I think we've seen that a spark back in his game that really wasn't evident because he just wasn't on base much the first 2 months. Tried to talk to Marcus about this during the weekend in D.C. Really wasn't interested in looking back. Most ball players aren't. As Marcus said, I don't want to look back and hear and have you ask, you were bad before, but you're good now. I'd rather just be talking about, okay, you're good now. What can you do going forward? And so I think that's what he has mentally really tried to do, is separate this poor start from where he's at, and said, I'm going to start fresh. I'm going to be Marcus Semien. I'm going to double down on the things I do well. I'm really going to hone in on that. And I think that has paid off. Let's see if the Rangers can pull off a similar thing with Adolis Garcia. That's been the other real struggle in the offense has been Adolis' situation. He had sat out 4 consecutive starts last week, then played 3 games, and sat again on Sunday. And, right now, I don't know that you can make a case that Adolis Garcia is one of your 3 best offensive outfielders. I think it's Sam Haggerty, Evan Carter, and Wyatt Langford. And none of them are going great. Haggerty has been a real kind of spark plug. But I don't consider he's not slugging the ball. He is getting on base some, and he's running. Evan Carter had a 3-hit game in Washington on Sunday, which I think may be a start for him to kind of getting out of a slow period when he got up to the majors. Wyatt Langford sat on Sunday in D.C., really because he has struggled for all of May, and it was kind of an old problem that resurfaced in 2024 as a rookie. The one thing we saw from Wyatt during spring training was everything off the bat was hit hard and loud. And once the season started, it's almost like he tried to muscle up a little bit more once he finally got into big stadiums and big crowds for the first time in his life. And we started to see exaggerated motions with his hands and with his legs. And that, the Rangers felt, led to him swinging uphill, getting underneath balls, and leading to a lot of either pop-ups or routine fly balls. And I think that's what the Rangers have seen some of in the past 2 or 3 weeks. There's also been one troubling element. Didn't get a chance to address this with anybody on Sunday in DC, but I think it's worth monitoring. Last year, Langford was a .250 hitter with a .500 slugging percentage, against off-speed pitches. This year he is hitless in over 20 at-bats against those off-speed pitches, the splitter and the changeup. And so I'm looking right now, the percentage that he's seen of that pitch is very similar to what he saw last year. But I think as the season progresses, if Langford does not show an ability to make an adjustment there, you're going to see pitchers try and exploit that much, much more often. So that's something to watch on him. And that's where I think this club is right now. They are, as the week starts, they're 4 games below 500. There were some signs in the DC series that this offense can be capable, but 2 games is not enough to simply draw a conclusion. It was a nice start. They've got to do something to continue that to turn this into a trend. Whereas I think in the case of Marcus Semien in particular, we're past the idea of, is this a start? This has been a trend. He's done this now for 10 days. That's when you move into the area where something is an actual trend. So it's worth monitoring with the rest of the club where this offense goes from here. But you get a couple wins, you get a day off as you did in Minneapolis, and or as you did on Monday in Minneapolis, and maybe you come back with a little bit more spark going into the next series. So it all will play out for the Rangers before they get home and have their next homestand. And really, let's get into the rest of the show here, folks.
Our guest on this episode of SportsDay Rangers is Darren Oliver. Long history with the Texas Rangers, starting back in 1988 when he was the club's 3rd-round pick out of high school in Rio Linda, California. Darren pitched 20 seasons in the big leagues from 1993 to 2013, 776 games. He was with the Rangers 3 times, 93 to 98, 2000 to 2001, and then the World Series. A very effective reliever in 2010 and 2011. Has been a special assistant for the team since 2014. And I find it interesting that Darren has a connection with the last 5 general managers in Rangers history. He was drafted in the Tom Grieve era in 1988. He was traded by Doug Melvin to St. Louis in 1998, and then Doug re-signed him before the 2000 season. John Hart then traded him to Boston in that famous 1 a.m. trade at the winter meetings in the winter of 2001, and then John Daniels obviously re-signed him to be a big part of that bullpen during the World Series run in 10 and 11, and JD hired him as a special assistant to the general manager after he retired in 2014. And he continues in that role under Chris Young. So it's 5 general managers. Very impressive, Darren, and thanks for joining us today.
Hey, no problem, man. It's a lot of fun knowing all those guys.
So I'm going to start at the beginning. I'm the kind of the history guy here.
You're not going to ask him which one's his favorite general manager?
I don't want to put him on the spot.
Yeah. Why would you say that, Evan?
Yeah. So. So let's you had a lot of injuries, early in your career in the minors, and then 94 93 you came up in your big league debut. You faced 1 batter, intentional walk to Mike Greenwell. I remember that, and then wild pitch and all of that.
Wild pitch? I threw it against the backstop.
Yeah,
what you call that?
And that was the middle of the pennant race. You pitched 2 games that year. Then you came back in 94. And 95, went into the rotation in 95, and then became a starter. So what do you remember about that time, and then being a member of the first playoff team in 96?
I know when I came up as a reliever, Johnny Oates didn't like left-handed relievers. You know that as well as anybody. So obviously I had Scott Boras. Relievers really weren't making a whole lot of money back then. So I think he said something maybe to the GM, hey, how about Oliver starting? And it kind of went from there. And then, 95, I started a little bit, but then I got hurt. I probably wasn't really ready. But then I came back in 96, and then, that's when we had the special team. And we should have went all the way, but things just kind of happened, I guess.
Yeah, you guys kind of inadvertently gave birth to the Yankee dynasty. I mean, you guys could have won that series, and you pitched really well in that series. What do you remember about that series with the Yankees? What stood out to you most?
I mean, back then it was different because, I mean, I remember my game, and there's no way today that I would be going back out there for the ninth inning. The fact that I had pitched a whole season, and then, you go to the playoffs and, your starter goes out there and goes 8, and you got the lead, obviously nowadays that would have never happened. But it was just a different kind of ball game. It's changed a lot, but that's just how it was. I mean, I saw the big change over the years. It's a lot different. That's all I can say.
Well, Johnny, and I don't mean to, but I mean, Mike Henneman had been our closer all year, and Henny was really kind of scuffling at the end. And I think that was probably the reason you went back out for the ninth in that game, and then you gave up the 2 hits to start the inning. The Jeter hit, if I remember, though, was kind of a hopper through the middle, and then the Raines at bat was an 8-pitch full count. So you really worked your tail off there to get us to the ninth inning.
I really would like to know how many pitches I threw in that game. That'd be interesting compared to what would have happened today. I bet you a lot of guys would laugh about that.
John, ask him a question. I'm going to look this up.
Okay. Well, so I'll go to 90, then to 98, because you had a really good season in 97 as part of the rotation. And then in 98, you were traded for the first time and moved to a different club for the first time. Certainly wasn't the last time in your career, but that was the trade deadline where Doug went out and got Royce Clayton, Todd Stottlemyre, and Todd Zeile. We were kind of scuffling at the time, if you remember, and you and Fernando Tatis went to the Cardinals for Clayton and Stottlemyre. What was your feeling there? Because it was still a really good ball club. But what was your feeling of being kind of traded away, and then the Rangers went on and came back and won in 98?
I was still kind of young, and usually when you get traded the first time, it kind of stings. I was kind of hurt in the beginning, but once you go over to another team, it's pretty much all the same. I mean, the guys are, trying to win. I feel like it's like a fraternity. The toughest part, I thought, when you get traded to another team is learning everybody's nicknames. And then, I'm seriously. But then plus we had McGuire, hitting home runs.
That's right. You were part of that home run chase. That's right. You were on that team.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, we really didn't have a great team, but we still drew a lot of people because of McGuire and Sosa. So it was a lot of fun. I had a great time there. I got to go to the National League. I got to hit, which I love to do. I sure wish they would do that again. I don't like the universal DH, but we'll save that argument for another day. But it's just it's a lot of fun playing in the National League when the pitchers can hit, and the managers has to, you have to be a good manager to manage in the National League when you have the pitcher bat ninth and the double switching and all that kind of stuff. I kind of wish they would get back to that.
How do you feel on that note? Well, let me just say this. You threw 113 pitches against the Yankees in 8+ innings in 96, which is...
That's not too bad.
I was thinking it was going to be over 120, but 113 is almost manageable, but still, I think you had pitched over 200 that year, right?
Yeah.
You'd pitched over 200 at that point
No,
in time?
but I was probably pretty close. But it was my first year fully starting.
Yeah, 173.
173?
So it was 200 the next year. He went over 200 in 97.
That's right. It was 97. Okay.
You got to figure you go 8 innings at least. You kind of did your job, I think.
So, Darren, I'm just wondering, right? You got traded in 98, and this club started focusing on the pennant race, and September here was memorable. But as a newcomer to the Cardinals and watching the end of the Sosa McGuire chase, what was your perspective? And you were kind of an eyewitness to history. Well, not a kind of, you were.
No, that was great. I mean, talk about. Literally during batting practice, let's say batting practice started like at 5:30 if we were on the road, there would be 20-some thousand people in the stands, and the visiting team, the players, would come on the dugout just to watch them take BP. I've never seen anything like it. It was, tickets were like golden. It was a lot of fun. I couldn't believe that this guy it was like he was hitting a home run. He walked 3 times and hit a home run.
I think they were opening the gates early too for fans to be MVP.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Oh yeah, for sure they were.
Hey, since you want to get on this kick about being angry about rule changes, how do you feel about the 3-batter minimum?
No, I don't mind that.
You don't?
No. I always like guys who come in there. Me personally, I didn't like coming there and facing one guy and then they're done. I think every reliever should be able to face multiple guys. Probably my biggest issue, I like the time clock. I love it in the minor leagues. The game goes by so fast. But I don't like the throwing over the first base or throwing over to a base twice. I think that's kind of a disadvantage to the pitcher. But I see that they want to put more offense on the scoreboard, so they're going to do what they can to have more offense so more people can come to the games and watch.
Yeah, tell me what point in time they're actually going to start having the more offense. I'd be interested in that.
Hey, they're trying. But I mean, if you've seen these pitchers, I feel like everybody that comes in the game, they all throw 95 plus. Yeah. It's amazing. I don't know how they do it. Everybody throws 95.
It's amazing.
So we want to get to the current team and your observations on some of our young pitching, but so the thing I'm interested in here is how you kind of resurrected your career in 2006 with the Mets. You basically had I don't know if it was retired in May of 2005, and you'd been a starter at that point for 10 years. And the Mets, you go to the bullpen, you have you go to the playoffs 4 years in a row with the Mets and the Angels, and you come to the Rangers, and obviously a huge part of those two teams coming out of the bullpen. But what transpired there in 2005, Darren? You got out of the game for a few months, but then you got back in and you resurrected your career as a reliever.
Yeah, that was an interesting year. Actually, I got kind of lucky because I was there in 2006. I went to the winter meetings. They were in Dallas. I sat there with Sandy. Who's our Sandy?
Sandy Johnson.
Sandy Johnson. So we went in there, and as well as I do, when you go to winter meetings, a lot of times people are just hanging out at the bar, telling old stories. So he asked me, hey, you still want to play? And I was like, I was still kind of bitter about 2005, and I kind of let myself go a little bit. So I said, well, what do I have to lose? I'll just go into camp. So I go into the camp. I was pitching great. I was like, dang. And then one of the pitchers got hurt. I think it was Zambrano. I think it was Victor Zambrano. And I remember my mother was sick. She had breast cancer, so she had surgery. She was going to have surgery, and I kept telling Omar, I said, hey, I got to leave. I got to go to California. And they're like, well, we don't know if you're going to make the team or not. And I say, well, I got to go. He goes, well, what if you go down to AAA, for like a couple weeks, and then we'll bring you up. And I was like, well, at that point, I didn't want to play minor league baseball. So I was like, thank you. I'm not going down to AAA. So as I'm flying back to California, stopping in Dallas, that's when I get the phone call from Omar asking me, would I go down to AAA? And I was like, I told you I'm not going down to AAA. So I fly down to California. My mother has a surgery on a Friday. And he calls me. Him and Willie Randolph call me on Saturday and say, hey, you're on the team. We need you back here on Sunday for the workout. And then I think the season started maybe that Monday. So I took the red eye from San Francisco and pretty much pitched out of the pen from there. Willie was great. He kind of took his time with me because I really hadn't pitched out of the bullpen. We had a good team. That always helps. And it kind of went from there. I mean, you talk about lucky. I obviously had to pitch well, but it just maybe it wasn't my time to quit or retire.
Well, you reinvented yourself. And as we transition into talking about this club a little bit, we're seeing one guy that's kind of going through that and is having some success this year after struggling in it last year. Have you had any conversations with Cole Winn about the transition of the bullpen? It seems like this year he's really kind of gravitated to it and feels much more comfortable with it.
Yeah, I love Cole Winn. I love Cole Winn and Jacob Latz. Those my golf guys. I think it's different when you're younger. I was a little bit older when I transferred to the bullpen. And obviously I didn't have the same stuff. But it takes time to get acclimated to the bullpen. You might be up, not pitch, up again, not pitch, and then they actually go out there for like 2 or 3 innings. It's not that easy. But I'm so glad that he's doing well. I love it. He's a good kid. I love watching him. Kobe and I, we try to take him out to lunch from time to time, and when those guys were in the minor leagues, we'd go golfing with them. They were mad when I took a hat from them because I beat those guys, which was a lot of fun. But and I still owe them around. I was still around at home at my home club at Vaquero. So I definitely want to take those guys out. So I told them, I said, hey, it's my treat. I got you guys. So we're gonna have a lot of fun whenever we go out there to play.
So getting into now, you're a little more into your current role. You and Colby are kind of the tag team when you go into a minor league place. And I know you were the one that kind of had Colby interested in this after his career was finally over. But and you've told me a lot of times how much fun you have. And you go in sometimes when the pitching coach, for a minor league, one of the minor league clubs is taking a few days off, Darren or Colby will go in and be kind of the acting pitching coach.
And play golf. And
they would go to good places. You don't want to meet a minor league team in a lousy city. You'll look at the schedule, find a nice place where you can go for a few days. How much fun has that been for you now over the last 10 or 11 years?
Oh, it's great. And what's the best thing about it? Like you forget how it was in the minor leagues. Sometimes. It's a grind, especially the staff, the coaching staff. It's a grind, and we usually try to find something that we can relate with the kids down there. And obviously, I have kids of myself, and they're pretty much the same age as these guys, so it's kind of easy transition, just like Kobe. And I think they really like to hear they really like the stories that we tell them, and plus we can understand when they're out there and they're not having a good day, or if they are having a great day. We kind of get it because we've been there, done that. We weren't Hall of Fame pitchers, but we weren't bad pitchers. We were just good. And some days we were, really good. And that's usually how most athletes are, let's be honest, football, basketball, baseball. I would say most guys are kind of in the middle. They're just good. And then the ones that are great, those are the Hall of Famers. And sometimes it's just really easy for them. And if they've never struggled before, it's kind of hard to relate to what those guys are going through.
I do want to ask you about one thing, because I know you just got back from Spartanburg, where the new advanced Class A club is, and I know you want to rave about the ballpark, of course, because Rev Entertainment built that. But you did see David Davalillo, who is one of my favorites in the organization in terms of upside among pitchers. And let me just, as we speak right now, he is, as a minor leaguer, he's 13-3 with a 1.97 ERA in almost 200 professional innings. What did you see from Davalillo? What did you like about him? Tell me what your thoughts were.
He's just, you could just tell when he goes out there, the confidence is just all over the place. And when he pitches, he may fall behind 1-0, but he's quick to get back into the count. It doesn't matter if he's throwing a slider or changeup or whatever. And he just attacks the hitters. I mean, he only went 5 innings, but it was really no. He gave up 1 run in the first, but after that, it was smooth sailing. It was fun to watch. I was really, really glad I got a chance to see him. And actually, Bonifay was down there, which was good. He got a chance to see it. He actually sat in the stands. I always sit in the dugout, but you could tell there's certain guys that go out there. You could just feel it. Like, all right, we got a really good chance to win today. This guy's going to probably go 5+ and give up maybe a couple runs. He was pretty much dominating those guys down there in A-ball.
Well, Darren, we appreciate it, and we're going to close on this. And I'll say this: Evan has 5 quick questions he wants to ask you, and these are his questions. So we'll pass it back to Evan for Evan's 5 things. Da 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 da.
John really doesn't have a lot of confidence in this, but this is just a quick questionnaire, Darren. You played in an era where we didn't have all those little sound bites on the scoreboard and all those little funny bits. So consider this your opportunity. You ready?
Ready.
All right. What's the best sandwich?
For me?
Yeah, this is your questionnaire.
Probably like a turkey club.
That's very generic. Have you ever personally asked for an autograph, and if so, who?
Yes. So back in the day, in the 90s, Ken Griffey Jr. and I had a Nike commercial. So it was our last years. He was in Seattle his last couple of years. I don't know if I was pitching that day or not. And he wasn't playing, obviously. He was old like I was. I called him on the phone like in the third inning and said, hey, man, I want you to sign a bat for me, but just don't sign it. Put something on it. And he put on there, I made you in that Nike commercial. And signed it. I thought that was pretty funny.
Someday I'm going to have to get behind how you and he ended up in a Nike commercial. But what's your favorite sports memory that doesn't involve you, Darren?
You know, it's 20 years, so I got to really think about that.
Oh, you're a fan too.
I mean, does it have to be baseball?
No, sports.
Watching Tiger Woods play golf.
Okay.
Winning the Masters. 100%.
All right. First concert, best concert.
Michael Jackson, Dodger Stadium. I was like 13 years old. He was with his brothers. Fantastic.
All right, and the last one. Describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
I say enjoying life, kids, and grandkids. How about that?
I like it.
That's great. Well, Darren, we thank you for joining us today. This was great. I know when you were with the Cardinals, Rick Hummel was the esteemed beat writer. You really went up in class from here when you Evan covered the team. But we do thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you around this year. Appreciate it. Okay, we thank Darren Oliver for joining us today, and now it's time for everybody's favorite segment, The Archives in Arlington, where we come up with something that happened in this week in Rangers history. And we're going to go back to June 12th, 1997, which is kind of appropriate for our guest today. It was the first interleague game in Major League history, and it took place at the ballpark in Arlington. The Rangers played the San Francisco Giants. Now, we made a big deal out of this. This is, my PR background here.
This was my first real exposure to the John Blake circus.
The
Spin Meister.
The 1997 Rangers were not having a tremendous season. They had come off the championship in 96. But so when the schedule came out, it was the first day of interleague play ever. It was the first year of interleague play, and the American League West was playing the National League West. Those were the only interleague games. This was a Thursday. And when the schedule came out, the other 3 games between AL and NL West clubs were all on the West Coast. So we had this, and we were at home. So we had like a 2-hour window on this for being the first interleague game, and we took full advantage of it, believe me. We had Willie Mays and Nolan Ryan came in to throw out the first pitches in that game. I think we had both league presidents. We got some national media attention out of it. We did our own little logo, and we had a sellout for over 46,000 fans at the ballpark in Arlington. And just a couple of trivia questions from there. The first batter was the late Darrell Hamilton for San Francisco. He'd been the Rangers center fielder the year before. The first interleague home run was hit by Stan Javier, also of the Giants.
You're burying the lead. Who threw the first pitch?
And Darren Oliver, our guest, was the starter that day. He was the losing pitcher, gave up 4 runs in 7 2/3 innings. And Rusty Greer, who we had on last week, was 3 for 4 in the game. I just had a lot of storylines, Evan. I mean, Will Clark played against his former team. Barry Bonds was on the Giants in those years. And the Rangers did lose the game, as I said. But we were able to create quite a spectacle out of it. And it's we did, like I said, it was, for that year anyway, it was a big deal.
Yeah, and it was, again, my first real exposure to the John Blake spin machine. And you took the game and turned it into something that was a big deal, mostly because you brought in Nolan and Willie to throw out the first pitch. And Did they sign the pitching rubber, or did you take the pitching rubber, or something? What did you do?
We took the pitching rubber out and sent it to the Hall of Fame, I believe, and had them sign it. Yes.
And did that have the little interleague logo?
Oh, we plastered that interleague logo all over everything. Bases, pitching rubbers, uniform patches. We got the league to really buy into this, and again, it was a scheduling quirk. We had a 2-hour lead time to the games on the West Coast,
and you milked it pretty good. And that might be the most memorable thing about the '97 season, which was a pretty forgettable year in between the first two playoff teams. Believe that was the year that Juan missed a significant amount of time early on. The pitching, after being so strong in '96, really went downhill. And obviously the big signing for '97 was to take John Wetland from the Yankees and make him your closer, and he had a strong year. The other thing was there was that commercial, my first exposure to Rangers ticket sales commercials, because '97 was my first year on the beat, that had Chuck Morgan narrating, John Wetland riding all around town on his bike, closing doors, closing windows, because now you had a closer.
Right, and you're right about the pitching. I mean, Kenny Hill, who had such a strong year the year before, we ended up trading him, and Doug. And we won't get into this too much. Doug Melman made a couple of some significant trades for '98 when he got Aaron Seeley to come in and join that rotation, and that was a huge move. But anyway,
and you got Rick Helling back in '97.
Right.
And those were two guys who won 39 games, I believe, in '98.
Yeah, I'll always say Aaron Seeley is a very underrated Ranger for those 2 years, '98 and '99. He won a lot of ball games.
We should have Aaron on at some point in time.
Yeah, he's a scout now, right, for the Dodgers?
No, he's with the Royals
right now.
You know what? I will tell you this. I'll give you one quick fact, and we got to get out of here. Aaron Seeley, Nathan Eovaldi's first pitching coach.
Really?
Yeah, he had him in the Dodgers organization.
Yeah, he's a real good guy. So, want to thank you for joining us on Sports Day Rangers.
Don't forget to check out more sports content from the Dallas Morning News. Sports Day Insider, my podcast, and with columnist Kevin Sherrington, and usually a guest from our staff to discuss important stories in town this week. That runs every week as well.
If you have any questions for us, you can ask us on X, and we'll try to get to some each week, although we haven't gotten any yet because we talk too much.
And thanks to Darren Oliver for joining us this week. It's always great to visit with him, and he really does approach everything with such a great attitude. We'll talk to you all next week.